Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to do something different. We're going to have a little speculation video about, well, not Bethesda, but about Starfield. Luckily we will not go over the disaster that was Fallout 76. There are plenty of people that do that, and there's Young Ye, Fudge Muppet, and a lot of other channels whom I full-heartedly agree with their opinion. But we will leave that be for now. Today we're going to be talking about Starfield and my hopes and speculations for the game. Um, of course, we already know that the game will be run on the Creation Engine, which is disappointing. I'm a huge fan of sci-fi games, like some of you may know, and covered Mass Effect Andromeda speculation stage. While not as disappointed with the game as many others were, I can very much say that the game had very bad writing, and so with little hope for the Mass Effect franchise, I look towards Starfield. Now, a few things to point out, that after Fallout 76's debacle and the information that Starfield will be running on the Creation Engine, I have little faith in the company and the game. But this won't stop me from hoping it will be a great experience. And for that is this video. Expectations, hopes, and my perfect Starfield. Not a lot of things are actually known about Starfield, but this does not stop me from speculating on how to make a great game in the style of Bethesda in a sci-fi setting. Now first, we go to character creation. The first of character creation will be what I think is utilizing their setting really well. I think Starfield will be the perfect game to mix both the Fallout and Elder Scrolls character creation systems together. You would have the bonuses and possible special stats based on the race you pick. Yeah, I expect Starfield to give the option to select both humans and other alien species, as alien species for me is almost always a must, and without it, space just feels too human. But besides the options to select from races, I think the rest of character creation will be much more like Fallout, selecting your special stats and perhaps traits. If it is an RPG-like game, I don't expect to see spaceship fighting a lot. I think it will focus more on the characters, like Mass Effect did, and traveling in semi-open spaces in the universe, as having a fluent open world is kinda hard when making a space game. Because of this, the traits would focus much more on your character in combat, social, or creation skills. Here, this allows you to focus more on making your build, which a lot of people complained about with Fallout 76. It lets you build your character, roleplay better, so to say. Second up is the gameplay, and I don't hope that the Starfield's gameplay is a literal copy-paste of that of Fallout, but I do expect there's a lot of similarities between the two. The gunplay being similar and possibly the VAT system, but I would much prefer it if they would actually just construct a system that allows for better gunplay with perhaps skills and abilities on hotkeys so that combat could flow much more effectively than either Fallout, that is lacking on the skills department because it doesn't fit the game, or Skyrim, that just lacks the complexity that I feel this game needs to feel better and different from either Fallout or Skyrim. Now the teaser that we got minimum info out of, and like actual minimum, we only saw a pretty realistic space station, and I just hope we can expect the game itself to use these kind of visuals as well, kind of a step up from either Skyrim or Fallout. I think the more I think about it, I kind of imagine this game very similar to Mass Effect, but with the Bethesda twist to it, which is of course probably not how the game is going to be, but that's still what comes up in my mind. Now, quests will be similar to other Bethesda games. You just talk to an NPC that can give you quests and it gives you a quest. However, I expect these side quests and main quests to be slightly more dramatic than both Skyrim or Fallout 4. I kind of want a more immersive world, as opposed to the Skyrim. The main quest just there's this big evil, and it feels like I could do everything else first, and then just like, oh, Alduin's here, but I don't care. With Starfield, I expect this not to be the case as much. Still hope to have that freedom, of course, but I don't want to feel that the main threat is no threat at all. I want to hear about, if you have a main villain, about him raiding colonies in some sort of news thing, because you're in sci-fi world. Um, but besides that, talking about quest giving, I hope they bring back the Fallout or the Skyrim and the Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 3 conversation menu. I personally was not a big fan of having your character talk and the minimum complexity that gives you. For example, if you write text, it gives you a lot of options. You don't need to worry about anything else, but with the voice acting, it's less flexible, so to say. Starfield being on a galaxy scale, however, would make either your actions feel that much more impactful or that much less impactful. Something Bethesda should be very wary of. But if they will do it well, the game will feel that much better than either Skyrim or Fallout. Now, for example, in Fallout 3, you could blow up the nuke and kill lots of people, and that felt like you had a huge impact. In Skyrim, you could choose the rebels or the Imperials, which gave a pretty okay impact. It wasn't the greatest, but and you could choose less in Skyrim and have less impact than Fallout. But I expect that Starfield would have that much more impact, because if they didn't, it would feel much worse than it does in Skyrim or Fallout. In Fallout and Skyrim, it's just like, okay, I did this thing, it was still cool, but didn't have much of an impact erased, but it was a cool story on its own. In Starfield, you're in a galaxy, so you could do it on a planet that is in the Hukaluka system, all the way on the opposite side of the galaxy of the home system, and it just feels, oh, I just did this thing, and no one really cares. Which might be realistic, but that's not fun. Now, the setting of Starfield. Now, Starfield is a sci-fi game, so it has much more options than either Fallout or the Elder Scrolls series. And don't get me wrong, both of the Fallout and Elder Scrolls worlds are really interesting worlds, but they are still limited in both of their aspects. Fallout is the game of the nuclear apocalypse, and Skyrim that of the dragons and magic. Starfield, however, doesn't have such a limitation if it's done properly. Civilization that sends themselves into nuclear fallout, you could probably find that somewhere in space. Magic being on a real planet thanks to a race evolving with nature, that might be the case. It's much less likely than a Fallout scenario, but it could happen. Part of me speculated that perhaps this is an alternate reality to the Fallout universe. One where humanity did not have the resource war, or perhaps they did, but the solution to the species was to look for it in space. They wanted to gather resources from space this way, and this being the way humanity enters the world of Starfield. I expect there to be some very interesting races, perhaps even races with intelligence as us, but lacking the normal humanoid shape, even though I don't think Bethesda will make not humanoid aliens that are intelligent. I would love if they did, but I don't think so. But there's one thing I expect to be in the game, at the very least, to have a reference to the Zetans and the alien species of Fallout. And if this is an actual alternate universe of Fallout, then have the Zetans either be the main enemy or reference them interfering with humanity advancement until they were eventually caught and questioned, their mothership above Earth perhaps giving humanity their spaceflight. But with so little information, this is really all I could think of for now. Have a bunch of interesting planets to explore and some space stations filled with races that we would see for the first time that felt truly unique, and basically stories to tell that would have been impossible to make with either Fallout or Skyrim. Now, on to the story. So the story has a lot of options. Of course, this is sci-fi, you're in space, you have options galore. Even with almost anything, you have a lot of options. But I think I'll give you two possible options. One is that they go Mass Effect style, with full-on, possibly galaxy annihilation. A fun concept, but I very much doubt they will use it because they might be too similar to Mass Effect, and two is I kind of try to think of my own little plot, as Bethesda is not known for their great storytelling through the story of the game. I mean, the lore that you can find in like the side quests is amazing, but that doesn't change that most stories in Fallout and Skyrim don't feel that impactful. You don't play the game for the story, and I kind of hope they would more base it on the story, and instead of a full-blown main story, I would kind of love it if the main story feels almost secondary to the side quests, their storylines. Like, there's these short stories that tell enormous tales in which you can actively participate in, or read up on, or just influence. But I don't want the main story to fall behind. Factions or species you could join in the war against the other, more like joining the Brotherhood, joining the Institute, but then species, countries, more than factions. The main story involving something personal to your character, maybe not like a person, like in Fallout 2 or 3 and 4, or the ultimate evil, like in Skyrim. You're maybe looking for... you don't know what you're looking for. Let's say you know you're looking for something so important to you, but throughout the game you don't know what it is. You know it's important. Throughout the game, your character has forgotten what this item is, but once you find it, you remember. Since the beginning of your character, since the beginning of the game, your character is looking for a box. You know who you are. You know who you are based on perhaps background you selected in the character creation stage, or the character you're role playing, and your character had spent fortunes on a ship and a way to get to the box, asking everywhere and to anyone where this box is. This in turn spreads rumors to all factions or species in the game about this box, containing something that someone was willing to spend their entire fortune on. Each faction then starts to discuss with themselves and with others what would be in the box, and each faction would try to get this box, making them rivals of your player character. Once you open the box, in about like half of the game to find it, within this box is nothing of actual great value. It was your personal belongings from a previous life, a life you put behind you perhaps. Perhaps it's something of a mother or father that got killed. Something that only has personal value to your character. It's something that was hinted at, but only you as the player would know and not the factions. But this search has created conflict between the factions, and your character would somehow need to fix this conflict, as you have been either involved with a faction at this point, or you just care so much about the universe, which I doubt. But you aren't forced to choose a faction, however, and you could possibly even have the option to start your own faction to battle against the others, to have this great storyline involving you reclaiming or claiming space for your own country, for your own faction. This isn't the best plot, but it's just what I came up with in the span of 30 minutes, just to show how much flexibility Bethesda has for its story within such a amazing game. Just the story I just described, you could fit in any game, but I like the idea of putting this in space. But any ideas you have on what story Starfield could have would be great to see in the comments down below. My conclusion really is that I think that Starfield has great potential, and I am still looking forward to the game. But this game will either make or break Bethesda, as either they will flop and it just goes downhill from their past impression of Fallout 76 and their way they handled that, which was absolute garbage, or they put themselves back on the map and have a lot of people even more excited for Elder Scrolls 6. Now, what I would like to know is, what are your thoughts on the possibilities of Starfield? Be sure to let me know, but otherwise, this was my little speculation video on Starfield, and I really hope that everyone enjoyed it. And with that, I will see you all later.